The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS, and brought to you by LL Pavorsky Jewelers, where Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners go and get engaged, as well as Kinetic Skateboarding. Get 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver. On the show today, everybody's lying. Ben Simmons' situation has more chapters. Woj says he's never playing for the Sixers again. Jason Dumas says Sixers fans are waiting at training camp to boo him. Joe Lacob says he makes too much money to trade for. Doc Rivers went on TV and lied. The Timberwolves general manager got fired. All the while, Ricky listeners are in Brooklyn at JJ Redick's podcast, and the Sixers have a cryptocurrency company on their jersey. Then, after all of that, Jordan Ligons from the Spinsters podcast joins Mike for what will be an extra long podcast with absolutely nothing happening. So don't ever say we didn't do anything for you. The Bark in the Park Run team up to one half of our goal of $7,500. The goal is $15,000. Go to this post in your podcast app or rightsrickysanchez.com. Join our team. Join the team. Raise $75. You get the Rebel shirt. Of course, every penny goes to Providence Animal Center. And thank you to Big Barker and By Nature for the T-shirts. That's all I got. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who finally got his wish, as Crypto.com is the new Sixers jersey sponsor. That is Mike Levin.
They're fucking with me. I've known it for a while, but this really drills down that everything the Sixers do is just to absolutely mess with me and make me take stock in how much of my time I spend on this franchise that is actively harmful to my well-being. And I respect it. I respect them doing it, but they're assholes, and they should know it, because they are.
The Philadelphia 76ers announced today that a new partnership with Crypto.com, the fastest-growing crypto platform with more than 10 million users worldwide, designating the crypto company as the team's official jersey patch partner. The partnership is also Crypto.com's first in the NBA. To tip off the partnership, the Sixers will be launching their first ever non-fungible token, NFT, available for purchase through Crypto.com. We are thrilled to launch a long-term partnership with such a progressive team at Crypto.com, a company that shares our drive for greatness, said Chris Heck, 76ers.
It's so hard to find other companies that share your drive for greatness. It's just so, and don't you find that on a daily basis and just like looking for someone that shares our drive for greatness? Chris?
Crypto.com will be woven into the fabric of our identity, and together, literally woven into the fabric of their identity. And together we will change the landscape for how crypto is integrated into sports by taking their money. We will also leverage Crypto.com's forward-thinking global expertise to unveil our first ever NFT program. These are the types of creative, innovative partnerships that we crave, and we're thrilled to share with our fans in Philadelphia and around the world for years to come.
Oh my God. What fucking bullshit. Just a waste of time. This is a total waste of time. They paid us money, so now their name is on our jersey, and it happens to be like one of the dumbest sounding things ever. Congrats. Now we get to wear that around.
It does look okay.
It looks
say
okay.
that.
I won't disagree. I won't disagree. The color-wise, it looks fine. But
I had
other words and companies that also strive for a similar level of greatness could also be blue. Could be blue and fine.
It's not a bad point. You could do almost anything in blue and white font.
Almost
any sort
anything.
of company. Yeah. I had a guy in my office last week that actually, he's an NFT guy. Actually, I talked myself into understanding it in a better way. So
I don't have that kind of time. I don't have that kind of time. I have time to do this podcast 18 times a week for several hours, but I don't have the time to give a fuck about it. I just straight up don't. I just straight up don't. I got floors to mop.
Yep, that's a good point. You do have floors to mop. Hey, this Ben Simmons update is brought to you by Kinetic Skateboarding. Get 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver. The fall is coming, and that is hoodie season. Hoodie season, kineticskateboarding.com. All right. Here are the Ben Simmons updates for the day.
I like that you said the fall is coming. Like the fall. Yeah. It's like...
Well, both. Both.
Yeah. Most people say fall. Yeah. And but you would say the summer. But I don't feel like you say the fall. But it feels more dramatic to say the fall because we've been falling for a very long time. So.
Yeah, and continue to fall.
Yes.
Many would say lower than anyone could have ever fallen, many would say. Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN tweets the following. ESPN sources, Philadelphia 76ers All-Star Ben Simmons will not report for opening day of training camp next week and intends never to play another game for the franchise. Simmons hasn't spoken to the team since a late August meeting where he communicated this message to Sixers officials. Simmons is clearly aware of sanctions available to the organization to fine and suspend him, including withholding of salary. But so far, Simmons appears willing to carry out a plan of forcing his way to a new team. Sixers have yet to find a trade they're willing to make for him. Then, our guy Jason Dumas, out there in San Francisco, adds... Last year, all the key decision makers in the Sixers organization had signed off on a Simmons and Harden trade, including Joel Embiid. I don't know that we had ever heard that specifically said like that. Not that we don't think he would have, but I don't think we had ever heard that. Ben was informed by the organization that he was likely being moved. It didn't materialize. All parties moved forward without friction. But that has been a point of contention with Ben as it pertains to the current situation. I can't confirm whether he reports to camp or not. He probably won't, but that situation is fluid. But I can reiterate he has no interest in playing another game as a Sixer. Ben is well aware of how the majority of Sixers fans feel about him. There are several organized groups planning to go boo him in Camden the day camp opens. He wants no parts of that. Mike, I ask you, I take a pause in today's timeline. Now, we haven't organized every Sixers thing over the last 8 years, but we've organized many of them. You know, some of them, the Mike Scott Hive thing, I would say, are somewhat Ricky adjacent. I would say for sure that almost every major gathering of Sixers fans we've known about. I ask you, as a co-host of this podcast, are you aware of several organized groups planning to boo him in Camden?
No, I'm not.
You're not.
And if we were, it'd be at the Bark in the Park. We talk about you'd be bringing it up if that was. It wouldn't be like on the sly, and I wouldn't be going to Camden to boo him or anyone. I don't have any interests in cross country booing. And
by the way, if there are any organized groups listening to this, the players drive into this gate. They don't park in that normal parking lot next to the thing. Yeah. So he'd definitely be booed if he played in a preseason game or anything.
Like that would for sure happen, and it's going to happen for no matter what for several years to come. With I think a level of passion and anger. I think that Philadelphia has never seen.
Yeah, I mean, and I think if they had just traded him, he would have gotten some boos when he came back. But as a reminder, when Andre Iguodala came back, he didn't really get booed that first time. They played. I was there. They played a video up on the screen. There was like a polite cheer, and that was it. Jared Bayless did get booed, actually, but he was in the same video. They tried to hide him in the video with Dario and stuff, but he did get booed. They've done this. I do think there was a quote from Kyle Neubeck from someone within the Sixers organization basically saying he's getting bad advice and he should fire his agent. This is like, I can't imagine this is like Ben's idea. This is all Rich Paul stuff. And he's created this animosity. I don't think there was, maybe I'm wrong, I think people were frustrated with how he played against the Hawks. A lot of people were done with the whole experiment. But I don't know that anyone was like this visceral anger. I commented on Twitter today. I look at the way that people tweet about Ben Simmons now, and I feel like I've been left in the dust. My form of negativity is passé compared to what has happened with all of this. This sort of continual, like, public leaking of the way both sides feel. So it didn't have to be this particular way. So the next step is Doc Rivers goes on TV on First Take.
Why?
As if he had never thought that they were going to ask him this question, because he lied in such a foolish way. The first thing he said was that they wanted Ben back, and that is part of the whole public, maneuvering. I get that. But then he said that he was basically misquoted and misconstrued, and he never said that he had any question whether Ben could be a championship point guard. Didn't question him at all after and he was taken out of context or something after Game 7, which is just a fucking, the tape exists. There's just a lie. It's just such a strangely timed thing, I think, overall. And by the way, he could have just gone on TV if he wanted to do this and said, you know what? When they asked him about that, I was upset. I was caught off guard. I made a mistake. That's not what I meant. But instead, he just said he didn't say it. So,
yeah, he could have said that. It just feels like we're just doing the same thing over and over again. The Sixers say, like, we really would like him to come, and he's a member of our team, and that's great. And Ben is like, or his agent, or his whatever, anyone around him, it's leaked that it's like, no, not coming. And the Sixers are like, still thinking that he's coming, and we're having a great time, and we have his locker room all set up, and his favorite snacks are there, and we made his bed all nice. That's gonna be great. And Ben is like, no, I hate my bed. I hate those snacks. I'm fucking done with your snacks. No interest. I don't bring my lotion. I don't care. Throw it out. And the Sixers are just like, we're still doing it, and he's coming, and we're having a great time. It's just like over and over again. These reports are leaked back and forth until just like coming to a head until this finally fucking happens, whether it goes or not. I don't know enough to know. There's so much speculation about like who's advising who, what's going on in whose head, what the offers are on the table. There's just so much unknown.
We have no idea, especially the offers. That is, I think, the biggest mystery. Right?
Not a clue. I think the thing that we can say with a level of certainty now, there's a couple things we can say. One, like, there's a level of fracture between Ben and the Sixers that seems irreconcilable. And the Sixers are hoping that they can just like reconcile it and get it to a place that's fine so that he can play a little bit and maybe rehabilitate his image, maybe be good enough to be good for a while, whatever it ends up being. But it's also very clear that their trades aren't, no one's happy with the level of trades right now. And whether that means like just suck it up, take the best one, whether that means suck it up, take the one with the most picks so you can then transfer it into a future trade once somebody else goes down. It's just like, it's not a pleasant scenario, but I will reiterate what I've said a bunch of times, is that like the only thing that matters is what the Sixers look like going into the playoffs this year and in subsequent years. because as painful as this is now and as frustrating it is to keep doing this, the only thing you're risking is fan disappointment and angst, which, welcome to Philadelphia, fucking disappointment and angst is written on the goddamn fucking bridge. And just like Embiid being very frustrated and just genuinely unhappy, and you're looking around and going like, well, I don't know if this is the place for me. But he just re-signed a big contract, so I think he knows what's going on and everything, and I think that's fixable going forward. But obviously, he could ask for a trade eventually. But it's just like, I don't blame the Sixers for holding out for the deal that makes them the best team come playoff time, but there just continues to not be that team, and now one of the teams that it has. No, okay. Every Woj tweet, I have to fucking just catch my breath for a second. Now Minnesota has, as we'll get to, has kind of blown up in a different weird way, in a way that we also don't know what the dividing lines are. Whether we can keep going.
We'll get to that in 1 second. The Sixers remain at DraftKings Sportsbook plus 750 to win the East. The Bucks are plus 390. The Nets are plus 100. And the Sixers remain plus 2,000 to win the title. Lakers at plus 200. Lakers at plus 400. Nets at plus 200. The Nuggets also at plus 2,000. We love DraftKings Sportsbook, also the official betting partner of the NFL. I requested a specific Ben Simmons prop today. I know they're working on it. Fingers are crossed. Official sports betting partner of the NFL. NFL in full swing. Birds at 1-1. Right now, with DraftKings Sportsbook, bet $1. Any new customer, you bet $1. Just bet $1 if you're a new customer on any football game this week and get $150 in free bets instantly. DraftKings. Oh, and by the way, DraftKings now has same-game parlays. Everybody loves same-game parlays. Build up those odds, huge payout. Posted it on Twitter. Same-game parlays, if you don't know what it is you combine bets. You have to win all of them, but it makes the odds grow bigger and bigger and bigger. Place a same-game parlay on any NFL game. You'll be credited up to $25, even if your bet loses. DraftKings, safe, secure, reliable, the best sportsbook app. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code RTRS to receive $150 in free bets instantly when you place a $1 bet on any football game. That's promo code RTRS to get $150 in free bets instantly this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, or PA only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. So you mentioned Minnesota, who throughout all of this, based on the leaks, seem to be the team that actually wants Ben Simmons. Whereas it seems like the Warriors would be like, all right, maybe, yeah. And same with the Cavs, but the Timberwolves seem the most interested. Jake Fisher reports that Gerson Rosas is leaving, or the Ricky's own Jake Fisher. Gerson Rosas, formerly of the Houston Rockets. Word has circulated among league sources in Summer League that incoming Minnesota Timberwolves owners Mark Lore and Alex Rodriguez have communicated they are fond of Sixers general manager Elton Brand, a name to keep an eye on here. Former Sixers.
Good guy.
Is a great guy. And I've mentioned many times on this podcast, well thought of in the NBA. I have mentioned that many times. He told us when he appeared at our live pod that he was offered the assistant GM job in Atlanta, but chose to stay with the Sixers instead and become the general manager. Former Sixer front office hinky guy Sachin Gupta is the acting president of basketball operations for the Timberwolves.
Yeah, worth saying that Rosas was fired, not
yes.
like he decided
yes.
to leave. And the weird thing about that is it's hard to know what is the okay, Gerson really wanted to trade for Ben. There's two options of it. That one in my mind is the most logical one. That he really wanted to trade for Ben. He wanted to make a splashy move. He wanted to say hey, we haven't been good enough. This team hasn't made the fucking playoffs in forever. And the rest of the front office or ownership or somebody wanted to be was like, but we like the young guys that we have here, and maybe we don't want to mortgage the future or something like that, and then it moved on. That's like my read on it, but it's also a new ownership group. But the old ownership group is who fired him. So it's all very muddled. It could be the opposite. It could be that he didn't want Ben at all, and the other owners, the new owners or old owners or whatever, wanted him, and this will accelerate a trade. But it's so hard to know. It's such a weird fucking time for the Wolves to fire their GM days before training camp. And
so strange.
And things on even without a Ben trade, their team is on the upswing. It looks good. Things are better than last year, at least. Anthony Edwards looks good. They're healthy. Towns hopefully will bounce back from a couple disappointing seasons, all that stuff. They have a head coach that they seemingly believe in, whatever. But it's you look around the league, man, and it's so easy to be look, front offices are smart. These people know what they're doing, and they have multi-millions and billions of dollars on this thing, and they're not just idiots doing whatever. But then you look around the league and go, they're fucking idiots, man. So many teams are so fucking stupid. Just so stupid, so poorly run across the board. It's amazing. It's a miracle how much money it used to be. I look back at, the drafts in the 70s or whatever, or 60s even, when, teams just, didn't know who to pick, or they picked the wrong guy by mistake through a phone book, and you look back and you're like, man, how did that happen? How did that go on? It's just it happens today still. It's just different versions of it happening today because it's amazing how fallible people are, and just because they have important positions and a ton of money doesn't mean they know what the fuck they're doing, because holy shit, man, so many teams are dumb as hell.
Well, the other thing is that I think there's a couple things that we factor in, obviously. Ownership and what ownership wants and what ownership sort of directs is something that we rarely talk about when we talk about GM moves, but it does exist. And the other thing is it's hard, but the market that you're in, I think sometimes makes you take weird shots you might not take otherwise, right? If you're in Minnesota, you're never getting a meaningful free agent ever. And that's 3/4 of the NBA teams, right? So if you're in the position where one of the major avenues to getting great players is impossible, it will never happen, I think it might make you crazy too. And this is, as you said, such a strange time to fire your front office, and just fire one of them, by the way, as Gupta stays. So, and we don't know what this means. We don't know if it means that they're no longer in on. And by the way, there's no way that Sachin Gupta doesn't have good intel on Ben. I'm sure he does. If they hired Elton Brand, that would be good intel on Brand on Ben.
Certainly.
Yeah, who? How do we know? I would actually think that would make them less likely to trade for Ben, but who the fuck knows? I have no idea. So
maybe
who knows?
Maybe if they hire a Colangelo, then we'll have a better handle on what the next couple steps are. I think the league should step in.
Yep. So then finally, Joe Lacob was quoted in the San Francisco Chronicle? I think it was. I'll double check. Says the following: in some ways, it doesn't really fit what we're doing. That's Ben Simmons. He makes a lot of money. And can he finish games? I don't know. He's very talented. The problem is we have Draymond. Draymond and him are very similar in the sense that neither one really shoots, and they do a lot of the playmaking. So that's one issue. The salary structure is another. Also, Joe Lacob was fined $50,000 because he's not allowed to talk about players on other teams.
That'll do it. That'll stop him.
Yeah. So who knows?
It's a weird time. And presumably more weird sentences and quotes will happen as we get closer to training camp, and Ben either shows up or he doesn't show up. I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea how this is going to end. I keep saying it doesn't matter until where, the thing that matters is not how long we're waiting. Mm-hmm. What matters is the team that they go into the playoffs with and subsequent playoffs with. But we've been in this for quite a while, and I just remember back during the Burnergate situation where I was like, how is it still going on? How have they not fired him yet? And we're a little bit there. We're a little bit in the this is definitely squarely in the burner gate. How is Jahlil Okafor still on the team? For you, Evan Turner, in that situation, we're definitely in the prolonged pain, long, torturous waiting games. Just one, because the Sixers account posted a friggin' the vibes are good today, and I was like, wholesome pick. The guys is not. No one believes it. Yeah, they posted like some pictures of like Tobias and Shake and Maxey and Korkmaz showing up and like smiling and dribbling, like the classic like dribble smile, like carefree, like somehow windswept look as they're indoors at the facility. I'm a sucker for that stuff. You know I am, and teammates, the Sixers having fun sitting next to each other or like goofing around. But right now it just feels like it feels like pretend. Just
can you imagine you're the new social media manager for the Sixers. You're sitting there, and Chris Heck walks by and he's like, "So how are your tweets?" And he's like, "Well, I'm just staying quiet for today with all the news." And he's like, "No, tweet something that everybody's having a good time."
Say we're having fun, and there hasn't been any like awkward silences. Is there a way to say that?
Yeah.
Did you see also the Timberwolves spelled Timberwolves wrong in their press release?
Did they?
Yeah, they did.
Oh,
really
my God.
Good. Very good time. Very solid organizational top to bottom going on everywhere.
So here we are. Daryl Morey does, and he has, have a large tolerance. I think he is not affected by this. Yeah. By this at all. And I think this is not rocket science and this is not revelatory, but I think he's just waiting as long as he possibly can to see if something happens with Portland or Washington. And eventually, just like the Harden thing, even though he wasn't there for that one, it will come to a head. And even if the Portland or Washington things haven't happened yet for Beal or Lillard, he's going to have to move at some point, I think. But while we all feel like, oh, my God, we've had enough, he's just nowhere near that, because he hasn't fucking been here for the last 8 years through all this fucking nonsense. And if he would have done this already. But thankfully, he has not. So I think he will just wait as long as he can, and we'll see what happens. If you had asked me yesterday, where does Ben end up, I would have said Minnesota by the first week of the season. But given what has happened today, I don't know.
Who knows? Yeah, know. We don't know what that is. Daryl is has a big Bowie knife in his teeth, and he's army crawling to either Portland or DC to start slashing somebody's Achilles. Just like somebody's going down. He's taking it doesn't whether it's Dinwiddie or CJ McCollum or whoever, he's slicing and dicing to make something happen. Man, something's got to change. I don't know. We're in it. We're in it, and we're going to look back at this and laugh at how much fun we were having during this drama.
I want to end the Ben Simmons conversation on the following. Boy, it's going to feel so good to finally do the pod when he finally gets traded. This has just been what an offseason. Anyway, so this comes from Thomas, and I thought this was appropriate. His subject line is putting money on Ben Simmons doesn't play basketball this year. He says, my rationale is simple. I'm just taking everyone at their word. Ben says he won't ever play for the Sixers again. Morey says he won't make a move unless it's worthwhile. Beal and Dame say they're not available. The other teams say their terrible offers are the best they can do. On the surface, Ben not playing for a season seems like an untenable nightmare for the Sixers, and it will be if the Sixers lose out of the gate. The pressure will rise, and if they win, the conversation about how much Ben impacts winning will rise, but only short term. The noise will quiet down as the season gives rise to newer stories and everyone gets tired of this one. And the more of these no-update stories on the Ben Simmons saga we get, the more everyone will tune out. I think Morey is and should be in this for the long haul. Now it's just a matter of whether he can convince Josh Harris to have more patience than Beal or Dame, even if that means a year's worth of patience. No question here, just encouragement to the two frustrated hosts of this podcast to strap in for the long haul by focusing on the team that's here, which, as a reminder, includes the excellent Joel Embiid and the growth of the lovable young bench mob we always wanted. On the Simmons front, there's just nothing to do for now, and maybe for a year. Thomas. Bless you,
sure.
Thomas. Bless you.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's talk of like, will the Sixers fine Ben and take away game checks and stuff? We're not there yet because I don't think they can start taking away paychecks until the season starts and he starts missing games. But I kind of find it hard to believe that they will. I think it's just a bad look. I think that Boston really suffered from how they treated players. It came off that Danny Ainge treated Isaiah Thomas after he played so soon after his sister died, and just traded him very immediately. And then he was hurt, and it sucked obviously for Isaiah. But I don't think that. I think Daryl knows that it's a players' league. I think Daryl knows that he's got to get people to want to play here, and part of that is Embiid, and part of that is it seeming like a good place to play. Yeah, I don't know that. Like, I don't know how NBA players feel about Ben. I would guess it's mixed, but I don't know that the way that this has been covered with the like stereotypical like national coverage of Philly fans is helping convince players to want to play here in the future. I don't know. I don't know that that's something like fans have to like be considerate of, like, hey, behave so that people want to play here. I don't know, but it's a weird thing.
Fans have behaved in the Ben situation. It's just like, it's fucking, I'm not one that generally complains about how Philadelphia fans are like painted, but like Rich Paul, the lie that you fed Jason Dumas about like organized groups going to Camden, it's like, fuck right off. Like, just Ben Simmons, just like I can understand 1,000,000% never wanting to play here again.
Absolutely.
Like, I can understand not wanting to play in front of the fans that watched what happened and how they felt. I can understand not wanting to play for the coach. I can understand not wanting to play with Joel after the post game comment, and just not wanting to be a part of all of it. But like, just that's enough. Like, you don't have to make shit up about why you don't want to be here.
Very bizarre.
It's just
like
off.
The blood has gotten too bad to be on it. I obviously, as like a middle of the road guy on Ben generally, like I wish that he has taken more ownership in the things he doesn't do well. And I think if he did show that vulnerability and honestly say, like, here's what I didn't do well and I fucked up, and like I wish I could take it back, or like, I'm going to be practicing and doing the thing, like, I need to get better at this and this, whatever it is. I think if he showed that, then people would be more receptive to, like, and even bring up the fact that, oh, here are the things he does do well, and here are the ways that he impacts in winning positively. But I think that there's just been, like, too much, like, everything's fine, and it's actually not a problem, when they still haven't gotten out of the second round. Since 2001. So that's not all his fault. A lot of people are to blame for this, and I just want to move on and find some adequate trade in response so that we can then make the next trade and find ways to capitalize on Joel Embiid being one of the best players in the league. Like, we got to do it. We can't fuck it around.
And I think there's a big difference between player empowerment and chaos, and this is chaos, and this is like, he's got 4 years left on his contract. Like, he's whatever. Before we talk about LL Pavorsky Jewelers, do you want to tell people about your conversation with Jordan Ligons before we launch into it here?
Absolutely. Had a great conversation with Jordan Ligons about the upcoming WNBA playoffs and the W in general, and some other basketball stuff that we spoke about. She's great. Her podcast with former Ricky guest Haley O'Shaughnessy, Spinsters, is excellent and informative, and they do some of the best, like, audio journalism I've seen in sports. Some podcasts are them just talking, but some of them are like they bring on other reporters, or they themselves do like a full piece on it. fully reported piece, and I find it very impressive and entertaining. And I recommend everyone listen to the Spinsters podcast, to the interview I did with Jordan Ligons, and watch the WNBA playoffs because it's gonna be a fun time.
I know one guy who loves the WNBA playoffs, and that's LL Pavorsky. And I'm here with the spokesperson for LL Pavorsky Jewelers, a customer himself, Mike Levin.
I'm gonna do this every time. This is every time. It's the one. It makes the more you ask me to do it, the more it thinks that I'm the first one. That everything has been a lie this whole time. And finally, he's like, Jesus Christ, I don't have to keep letting. We got one. We got a customer. Mike's just going to talk about it every time. We don't have to bring up anybody else. I don't have to doctor any photos of like random friggin' Google image searches of people with rings that I could say is mine. Now we're just going to say it's Mike. Mike's number one, and we can just go from there. But no, LL's great. The process was great. It was easy.
What number were you?
236, which I at one point had divided into several Hollis Thompsons. How many? Everyone does their own numbers and stuff, but I was just going by how many Hollis Thompsons it was. He's awesome. It was great. It was a weird, because of the pandemic, it was weird because of how long we went from when we saw the ring to when we eventually, I sneakily said, mail that shit out to John Gonzalez's house. It was weird, but he was checking up but not pushing, and it was always very easy and very nice, and I had a great time. And Alyssa loves it, and she really does. And she would tell me if she didn't, she would be like very upset and wanting to get a new one, and because she second guesses everything. Anytime we get a new rug or something, it's like, fuck, I have to like convince her to like continue to get up in the morning. It's like, I don't know, she doesn't like change, but she loves this ring. It's great. And it's awesome, and she's very happy. And LL did a great job guiding us in the right direction. We couldn't be happier. I swear to God.
LL Pavorsky Jewelers, been there for over 30 years at 707 Walnut, 215-627-2252. Lee at llpavorsky.com, or tweet at him at LL Pavorsky, supporter of our charities, Coded by Kids and the Providence Animal Center. LL Pavorsky Jewelers.
I was doing my testimonial for too long. I can't do the testimonial and the tagline. Ridiculous.
Oh,
Forgot I even had to do it.
All right.
Do it. Number one, me.
All right. Now for Micah Jordan. Enjoy.
Okay, here we go. I am going to do the thing that you and Haley do on your podcast, Spinsters, and that is to ask you to introduce yourself. Please, Jordan Ligons, go ahead.
Oh, no. Everyone hates this, and now I see why. Okay. I'm Jordan Ligons. I am the co-host of Spinsters, which is a basketball podcast on the Blue Wire Network. I'm also a journalist and basketball lover.
Very good.
Boom.
Very good. I've told you this via email, but I really do like your podcast very much. You guys started it a couple months ago, like 3 to 6 months ago. It's pretty recent, right?
Yeah, in March of this year.
Yeah. And I'm just going to rip through a couple that I really like, just so people, if you haven't heard it, you can catch up because they're all available. I really like the women dunking episode with Natalie Weiner.
Yes.
I thought that was excellent.
So good.
The episode about the WNBA union with Lindsay Gibbs, which I thought was very cool. You guys had a whole Tamika Catchings episode, which was dope, and about someone that I should have known more about and didn't, and that was very enlightening. You yourself did a very casual, almost no topics interview with Lexi Brown, which I thought was a delight.
That was so fun.
That was cool. And then you had another one that I wanted to also say. You had Alex Wong on to talk about why more Chinese players aren't drafted into the NBA, which I thought was actually very enlightening as well. So,
yeah, wow, that's a lot. Thanks so much.
I listen to the podcast. I enjoy it. I told Haley this, but I did not listen to the Ben Simmons episode because I just, as a Sixers fan, I just can't I can't keep doing it. I've just internalized too much trauma.
It's okay. You know, sometimes you got to say no for mental health reasons and just to, back away from that type of content. I feel you.
Had to. So can I ask you how you got into the WNBA? What is your W origin story?
Ooh, my W origin story. Well, I have been playing basketball since I was 5. So I wanted to play because my brother played and I wanted to do everything like my older brother. So I started playing. I was on the Lakers when we didn't even have jerseys. We just had yellow t-shirts and it was awesome. And going through, as I started playing, I had a really good core group of girls that we kind of grew up together and started playing. And one of my teammates, her birthday was always the opening day for the Monarchs. Like that was her thing. And for her birthday, we would go to the games every year. And so I became this diehard Monarchs fan and fell in love with Ruthie Bolton and Tisha Pinachero and Yolanda Griffith and Kara Lawson, and really was introduced at a very young age to these professional women athletes that I just admired and wanted to be everything like. So I think, people say all the time the WNBA is so important, and it's true because I got to see at a young age that was a possibility. I did not go on and play in the WNBA, but I knew I could keep playing just like these women have.
You did play in college though, right?
I did, yes. At
Where
a
at?
D2 in San Diego.
Oh, nice. I want to hear your scouting report of yourself as like an unbiased journalist. Give us your Jordan Liggins scouting report.
Oh, I'm going to go with Jordan Liggins in her prime. Now it's going to be, she's really slow. Just play defense on her. She'll pass. But I'd say in my prime, don't go for the fakes because I am short. So I'm like the pump fake queen. Mm-hmm. I have good footwork inside. So a lot of up and unders. So that is definitely on my scouting report of like, stay on the ground, don't jump, don't fall for the fakes. That's definitely on mine. I would say she has a good left hand. Okay. So yeah, a lot of people think I was left-handed, but I just learned my left hand really early. So that always came in handy. And she could shoot. So like run her off the 3-point line. Make her do a floater. I struggle with those.
How's the defense?
The defense, it's fine. I was never super quick. I'm not going to get 20 steals a game. I'm going to be in the right place at the right time. I'm going to try to take a charge. I'm going to try to block a shot. Don't know why. It's really just effort, trying. But it's not great, and I'm not afraid to admit it.
It sounds like there's a lot of junkiness to your game. Like fool you with some stuff, like little subtlety here and there, and then like get in the dirt a little bit with somebody. Yeah.
I want to do all the dirty work because I want to play. So if that's going to keep me on the floor, then I'll do all that stuff. And then I got to score too. So I'll make sure I do that.
Yeah, for sure. So you guys on your one of your most recent podcasts, you and Haley talked about going to the Sparks Storm game last week, which I was also at, and I didn't see you guys there. Yeah, my fiance Alyssa and I went to the game, and it was a great game. I mean, the Sparks had lost. To be honest, I did not. I moved here to LA like 10 years ago, and I've followed the WNBA, but I've never like locked in on the Sparks. Like they would be a team that I would care about because I can't care about the Lakers. My girlfriend's a Lakers fan. Her fiance's a Lakers fan. I can't do it. I just can't do it. Although people,
we'll bring you on eventually. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I might ask for advice on marrying a Lakers fan at some point. But
yes,
I can't do it. But the Sparks are always some team that I was just like, I don't know. I couldn't lock in. It might honestly be because like I don't think that they have a good logo. Like I wish that their logo was better. I think it's a little bit. I think it's a little bit weak. Like if I bought like a Sparks mask or a hat or something, I think I would lock in earlier. So I really just stayed league wide fan, just like liking players individually, which is actually probably better for my mental health because I'm so locked in on the Sixers individually.
Yeah.
Like this, so being able to be like, I like everybody, I like these players and whatever. It's just been a breath of fresh air, as the Sixers have been a breath of smoggy not air. But that game was really like they D'd up in that game. They had lost 6 in a row, and they played against a shorthanded Storm team and really like locked down. I was very impressed by how they showed up after skidding for so long.
Yeah, me too. It was fun that way too. Of just like Taya Cooper really had a great game, and we have all seen the video of what happened to Sue Bird. Thanks to E-Weezy, Erica Wheeler, put her on skates. And they were just having fun. Like, there was a lot on the line, especially at that point in the season.
Yeah.
The best part about the W is that every single game counts, and down to the very last possession, as we found out, just this past weekend. So that was a big win for them because that kept them in the playoff hunt. But as we know now, they did not make the cut. The Liberty swooped in for that final playoff spot. But it was still a good game, and I think they're going to point to that game as like a build-off game for next season, because that's when things started clicking. I felt like, they still didn't have Chene, but they really used NECA in a great way. And that's going to be their team for like probably the next couple years. So they're just going to get more familiar with each other, and that's all they need.
Yeah, for those who didn't see, the Sparks had a chance against Dallas in the last game of the season. They needed Washington to lose out, and they did. And they had a shot to get the 8 seed. And it was a close game with Dallas, and just a missed 3 at the buzzer to keep them from the playoffs, which is a bummer. But then the Liberty of New York get to go in. I want to talk about the WNBA playoffs, but first I want to just like a more of a league-wide thing. You say this a lot on your podcast, but there are 144 players roster spots in the WNBA.
Yeah.
12 teams, 12 roster spots. That's good math. And in the NBA, there are over double that, obviously. And I just wanted the Athletic put out a list of, like, everybody does their fucking lists. Here's the 300 ranked players, whatever bullshit, every year. And it gets people mad, blah, blah, blah. And I don't care about that. But they put out their, like, 125 best players. And so these are some of the names of players that, if it was the WNBA, they had the same number of roster spots, would not be in the league. Like not be in the league at all. Not even, like, ride the bench, but, like, not be in the league. And you're looking at, like, John Wall, Goran Dragic, Victor Oladipo, JJ Redick, Lou Williams, Ricky Rubio, Otto Porter, Eric Gordon, Gary Harris, Kevin Love, Josh Richardson, Tyler Hero, Serge Ibaka, Paul Millsap, Marcus Gasol, Mitchell Robinson, Luke Kennard. Like, these are good players, like rotation players on playoff teams. And in the WNBA, because there aren't enough teams, these people would not be in the league at all. And I just find that's wild, remarkable.
That's
so you mentioned,
crazy.
Yeah, and you mentioned on your last podcast, you talked about Misha Hines-Allen, who, when Elena Deladon got hurt, really stepped up for the Mystics and became a number one option. A similar thing happened with, not a similar thing, but Benijah Laney, who was cut from her previous team, goes to the Liberty and then steps up and has a great season. It doesn't happen as much in the NBA because, like, the major talent is more spread out. But as you said, there's role players in the W that are forced to be role players because there's just not enough teams for them to be, like, the number one option there.
Right.
Is that
but
something
they could
players,
be.
Yeah, exactly. They could be like Misha Hines-Allen and Benijah Laney. Is that something that, like, players talk about? Like, is that something that they're aware of in that sense? And how does it, like, affect them?
So it's fascinating because players talk about it in the sense of, like, kind of being stuck. Like if you're a bench player in the WNBA, you're like, I'm good enough to make the team. I've made it through training camp. I made it through cuts. So I am a WNBA player. I'm good enough. I know I'm going to go overseas and be the star of somebody else's team and make 10 times more than what I'm making now. But I'm waiting for an opportunity. Either somebody gets traded, somebody gets hurt, somebody retires. Like I'm waiting to kind of move up the roster spot. But there's really no middle ground if you get cut and you're just trying to make a team after somebody's already had their rosters. Like it is so hard to break through that. And I was talking with somebody that was drafted in the 3rd round of the WNBA. And if you aren't familiar with the WNBA draft, it's really like the top 10 picks are really the only ones that are kind of for sure to make training camp. And everyone else is either you might make a roster or we're just going to sign you, but go play overseas and we'll wait until we need you type of thing. So she was kind of having this identity crisis a little bit. She was like, do I consider myself a WNBA player? Because I was good enough to get drafted, but not good enough to make a team. But I had a really successful overseas career. So it's just, I feel like it's the hardest league to make a team in because there's so little spots. You have to be above and beyond just good, you know?
Yeah, even, right, Lauren Cox was the 3rd overall pick in the 2020 draft by Indiana, right?
Yeah.
And then she gets cut like less than a year later. And the idea that the third overall pick would get cut is just like insane to think about.
Yeah.
And now she's on the Sparks and will hopefully grow into a real good player over there. But it's just such an odd thing. Like I remember when Danny Granger got hurt a bunch of years back on Indiana and Paul George like took a bigger role and it was like, oh, this guy actually could be the guy. That just doesn't happen very often. Because there's just too many spots. It feels like, you think about those guys. My first guy, and I like Ricky Davis. How can you not like Ricky Davis? But like the first thing that comes to mind of like good stats on a bad team is Ricky Davis. Like if you need somebody to put up points, like he's your guy to do it. Paul George obviously like became a better player than that, although he's still like, Paul George. But it's always very interesting to me. Like in the NBA, it's like you have these guys who, Matisse Thybulle is a Sixer who I like very much. Who's a very exciting second-year player. And he knows how to be a role player because that's kind of all he is. Like if you asked Kawhi Leonard to be a role player on a team that like LeBron was on or whatever it is, then it's like you're not seeing as much of their game fully fleshed out. And it's just very interesting to me.
Yeah, and you take a team like look at the Aces. Like they have Kelsey Plum, who's a gold medalist coming off of the bench. Like she counts for bench points, and you're like, okay, you could have a whole franchise around her. Like if you really wanted to build a new franchise, you could have her, and she's good enough to be a starter and she's good enough to run a whole team, but she's coming off the bench for a team that already has all Olympians in their starting lineup. Like it's wild that the talent is so stacked on each team because they're all the best players in the world. And you mentioned Lauren Cox, and I think of Megan Gustafson, who was the top player, broke all the records in college, was this amazing basketball player. And she gets tossed around to like 3 training camps her rookie year. And it really makes you think like, dang, these women are really good. Like, they're not just good. They're really, really good because you have a player, just a rookie, and you're like, yeah, you're not going to come in here. You have all these vets here that have worked for this spot, so you really got to earn this spot
like right
on the
away,
roster.
too.
Right away,
There's no like, okay, we can send Isaiah Joe down to the G League for 3 months to just like chill. It's either like your ass is on the bench or you're just somewhere else. Like maybe in Russia or something.
Right. Yeah.
So we're talking.
There should be a G League.
There really should be a G League, but they got to pay the women who are there already more. So
exactly.
What are we? What is the status of expansion? Obviously, the people listening to this podcast will be invested on expanding to Philadelphia, which is a team that deserves a city that's had a. They've never had a WNBA team. They had a different women's team years ago.
Yes. Yes.
But what is the status of expansion in the like sourced reporting?
I would say that the latest news has been like the Bay Area kind of getting this unanimous vote to wanting a WNBA team. And I think especially for Philly and all of these other cities around the country, I believe that there's a want there. Like, there isn't people being like, oh no, like, take them away. We never want to see high quality basketball. Like, I don't think anyone's saying that. So there really needs to be this strategy in place. And I think this year, you know, with a lot of people getting cut, with a lot of people just being waived, you know, you mentioned Lexi Brown earlier. She got waived and she was even in shock, just being like, I was not expecting that. But it really is eye-opening. Like, nobody's job is safe unless we expand and have more opportunities. I mean, I've played with a lot of women just in the LA basketball circuit, and it blows my mind. I'm like, how are you not in the W? Like, you are so good. And there's just no room. Like, that's what they say. Like, I made it to a training camp, didn't make it past that. So I think Philadelphia Bells would be just a great name, and a lot of predominant female basketball players are from Philly. You have a Breanna Stewart, you have a Dawn Staley, just two that come to mind right off the bat. Natasha Cloud, yes. And I could totally see Dawn just putting down some money, being an owner of a Philly team. But I'm for it. Let me know who I need to talk to. I want to make that happen for you guys and for the W.
It's so weird to be like, just wait. I hope some benevolent rich person that likes basketball just like does something. It's not going to be us, but I could keep talking to people about it and asking them to do it. So the playoffs, we are now, the regular season has ended a couple days ago. The playoffs start very soon. The WNBA playoffs a few years back adopted this like super intense format. Can you explain how they work?
Yes. So first of all, it's no conferences. So it's just the top 8 teams in the league, which I love. And I definitely feel like the NBA should adopt, but that's a whole nother conversation. So top 8 in the league, and the first 2 rounds are single elimination games. So speaking to all the NBA fans, if you love the new play-in tournament style where it's like March Madness and it's way more intense, the WNBA has been doing that since 2016. So it is high energy for those first 2 rounds. And how it goes is if you're the first seed and the second seed, you're kind of chilling until the semifinals, which is a series of 5. So the whole reason why the rankings are so important is because you are trying to avoid those single elimination games. You want to be chilling and you want a series. So right now it's the Connecticut Sun and the Aces that are the top 2 seeds. So they won't see anyone until the semifinals. And then the 3rd and 4th seed have a 1 single elimination game bye. So they meet the team in the second round and they just have to win 1 game to get to the semifinals. But those, you know, bottom seed teams, this is their chance. Like, they only have to win 1 game to move on and beat the higher seeded team. So it's all hands on deck. Everyone is laying it out there on the floor, and it's so much fun. So much fun.
And it's so weird the WNBA season is so strange because there's at least this season, there was a big gap for the Olympics. Yeah. Where there just like wasn't anything, which was strange in some sense because it feels like it loses momentum, but also like when it came back, it was like, and now we're in the thick of a playoff race. Like, it didn't feel like there was time to waste. Even as some players were super well rested and some players were like, I I have so many miles on my body, both from like the basketball and also the like flying to Tokyo.
Yes.
And then also like there's even the beginning of the season is strange because some players are still gone playing in various overseas leagues. So right now, as we got like the last few weeks of the regular season and now into the playoffs, is really the most like full strength any of the teams are. Is that right?
Yeah, because there's a lot of hoops and hurdles and variables that a WNBA player unfortunately has to go through during their season. And then you get to the end in the playoffs and you realize bodies are tired and they've been playing basketball for like 2 years straight without a break because they go from season to overseas to season. So they're just really winding down, and usually it's a time where you're supposed to be at your full strength. And I just did a interview with the Suns beat reporter, Alexa Philippou, and she made a really interesting point of saying, like, in 2016, when the Olympics happened, the team won with the least amount of Olympians. And Connecticut right now is that team. And I think that's so fascinating because you look at the Storm and already, you know, something happened with Stewie, and Sue Bird is, you know, getting up there. And then you have Joelle Lloyd, who is also on the team. And so you're like, if you're pulling for the Storm, you have to have in the back of your mind, like, all right, they're probably really tired at this point. And knowing that as soon as that last game, whenever it is, if it's single elimination or if it's the finals, you have about a couple days to fly over to your overseas team. So there's just no breaks.
It's wild. It's a crazy thing. The 4 teams that are eliminated right now, are some of those players already being like, next job, going overseas? That's crazy.
Yes. Like immediately. I remember, watching and covering the bubble. And as soon as Cheyenne Parker, who was on the Chicago Sky, she had 24 hours. She flew back from the bubble, repacked her stuff to Chicago, and then flew overseas.
That's wild.
Like, it's crazy. I know. It's wild. I'm realizing that just with interviews. I'm like trying to get people that are still in season, because as soon as they go overseas, the time difference and everything gets difficult. So they're like, yeah, season ended, so I'm packing up. Like, dang, no window.
Like, yeah. I mean, I remember going to the Baseball Hall of Fame when I was a kid and seeing like Ted Williams stuff or Joe DiMaggio stuff and being like, and then they were gone for like these years because they were in the war. And it's just like, that seems crazy. They're a professional athlete. Like, why are they going to war? You would think they'd be like, at least like, all right, we don't have to ask them to go to war. Like, somebody else can go to war.
Right.
We don't need those guys do it. And it feels like similar in the WNBA where they're like, well, I'm out here trying to like earn a living, and they're offering a lot of times more money than they are in the W.
So much more. Yeah. It's like, I got to go to my second job. And you're like, wait, you're a professional athlete. Why do you have a side hustle? Oh, yeah. Well, actually, the WNBA is my side hustle because this is paying me more.
Why is it really that much more like in the overseas leagues?
Yeah, it is. It is, especially for the teams that, you know, you have like the Russian team that has Brittany Griner, Brianna Stewart, Courtney Vandersloot, Allie Quigley. You're like, how are you paying all of these people over $1 million? And they're making max like $150K for the W, and they're making $1 million plus for less time and, you know, just kind of having to be the face of this league for a little bit, win a championship, and come back.
How are they paying them that much money?
I don't know. One, I will say, I think I've also been doing a lot of work with FIBA and, you know, doing play-by-play or just being able to watch a lot of their women's game. And the support is crazy. Like, their stadiums are sold out. And they are really buying in and excited about these female athletes, where you feel like you have to beg people in the US to go to a game like for free. and they are invested, and they really are investing in these women teams because they're trying to win the championship. They're trying to build these super teams over there because the fans are engaged. And so it is a little bit of like asking them like, hey, what's going on? What are you doing that we're not doing? Because it's not only that the fans, but even some of the players are like, all right, I could play in the W, or I could go over here and make 10 times more. So it's really just the WNBA just having such a, it's what you dream of as growing up in America. You want to play just like the NBA. But if they're not going to be paying you and giving you what you're worth, then you kind of got to go to the people that are cheering you on and giving you money at the same time. So I do want to like say, what are you doing that's working? What can the W do to kind of benefit from that?
It does feel like the WNBA has been having at least a more cultural awareness of the players in the league and relevance. I think part of that is because of you tell me if you disagree, but like part of that seems to be because of the like very forward front step, front foot, like role they've taken in social justice issues, Black Lives Matter issues, police brutality issues, where other leagues were a little bit slower to get there. And what I've always found interesting was that like there was never a conversation among those players about like, at least publicly conversation, where it's like, are we alienating our fans? It was just like, no, we're just going to do what is right and what we believe in. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. And I would just say that the W has kind of always been that way. And I think that's what makes it so powerful is this time around, it was social injustice and Black Lives Matter and playing for the Say Her Name campaign. But in 2016, the Minnesota Lynx kneeled for the national anthem before Kaepernick. So a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people forget. But if it wasn't that, it was for pride awareness and for LGBTQ. And so the W has always been super progressive and really of the moment. And so it's actually really fun to see the crowd just be like, yeah, this is who we are. Like, this is the league that I'm cheering for. This is a part of our identity. It's not as surprising for W fans that have been around that, we flipped the Senate. Like, it's like, this is what we do, like we're outspoken. We're going to be leaders in this way. And, it is, though, exciting that people are finally paying attention and being like, wait, that was the women's basketball league that did that? Like, don't they only have 144 players? Like, that's what people are starting to remember. Like, yeah, I mean, yes, there is strength in numbers, but there's also power in this unity and this league to be able to be yourself and be free and be able to speak on what you believe in. So that's what they've always been about, but it's cool to see it starting to get noticed and have this kind of awakening of the orange hoodie that I like to call it, of just being able to see that and recognize that and just know that this is what this league stands for.
It's a nice hoodie. I haven't bought one because I feel like there's a little bit of like are you going to kind of be the person that like the guy that wears the hoodie in like some certain way?
Please do. But please buy it.
It's a good looking hoodie for sure.
It's great. It's great. I wanted the kid size and I felt like a lot of women did that. So that all the like kids extra larges were sold out. I was like, dang it.
Where are all these huge kids coming from?
I know.
Okay, so the WNBA playoffs start soon. I want to go through, if you don't mind, and go through a couple of the playoff teams, all the playoff teams. And I'll say one of my favorite or two of my favorite players on the team, and you just talk about them a little bit. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. All right, so the Liberty are the 8 seed. Benijah Laney, who we already talked about, is absolutely dirty. And she plays like someone who was recently cut. And I love that. And then also, I love the intensity that Sammy Wickham also plays with. She's a really fired up motherfucker. Obviously, they have Sabrina Ionescu, who's like going to be one of the new faces of the league and all that stuff. But those are the two players that I'm most drawn to on the Liberty.
Yes, you're so right. Benai Delaney won Most Improved Player last season, was an all-star this year, has really, is that picture perfect player that got an opportunity and now is showing why she's one of the best guards in the league. She's also from Rutgers, which I just have this bias in me of just loving Rutgers women's basketball players, just how they play, their tenacity, everything about them. I just love Rutgers basketball players. So she fits into that. And Sammy Wickham.
Right?
Yes.
Garantes,
yes.
Yeah.
From the Sparks.
From the Sparks, yeah.
And Kalia Copper, who's on the Chicago Sky. So and Kia Vaughn. They have a couple players in the playoffs, which is unsurprising because I love how they play. And Wickham, is from Australia and has this championship mentality from being on the Storm that she really brings to this team. And she's had an amazing year. Like, she was a great player on the Storm, came off the bench and was just like, shoot the ball every time you touch it. And now she's kind of one of the more vet players on this Liberty team, and has really sat into that role wonderfully. So I think I'm not going to be surprised if she hits like 7 threes in the playoff game to help them.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Dallas Wings, who just beat, I'm going to say, our Los Angeles Sparks.
Ooh, yes.
Day. And
did you see what they tweeted after?
No, I didn't.
They said the Los Angeles Sparks.
It's a salty league.
With an extra S.
There's not a league that is
So
afraid to throw
salty.
some shade.
Never afraid, but I was like, that stung a little, Dallas.
Yeah, ending the season. That's like a very Dame-esque like wave type of thing.
Oh gosh.
Wow. So Arike Gumbalale is awesome. She's awesome.
Yes.
She's only 23 years old, which is crazy that she's this good. I also really
Wild.
I found myself really gravitating towards Mariah Jefferson, who's more of a role player, but someone that I was definitely into. Talk about those guys.
Yeah. So Arike is a walking bucket. Like, she is just a pure scorer. And if you're new to the W, go back to a couple years ago when she was in the Final Four with Notre Dame and hit 2 back-to-back game winners at the buzzer to win the tournament for Notre Dame. And she's just that player. Like, you knew that then. And for her to make that easy transition into the W to also be a top scorer, she lost the Rookie of the Year award to Nafisa Collier. And I think that will always have a chip on her shoulder. She was also a first-time All-Star this year. And she's on a team that they're building around her. And she's tired of losing. I just feel it. I know it. And so for them to get the 7th seed and to even make the playoffs this year, I'm sure she's wanting to make noise of like, hey, we're here, we're coming. I don't think they're all the way there yet. Marina Mabry, her former teammate at Notre Dame, former Spark, has also had a great year gunning for that Most Improved Player a Year award. But I think they're just tired of being at the bottom. Like, they really want to upset a team. They really want to make some noise. If it's not this year, they're building on for next year. So Arike is just must see TV. Like, you have to watch her play basketball. It's just an art form at this point.
She's good. And those calls from that Notre Dame game, Ryan Rocco's calls, like, really crystallized it and made her a star in my mind because he was so excited. I think he's great. I really liked Kara Lawson also, but now she's coaching Duke now, right?
Yeah.
She's good.
She's so good.
Are you enjoying? Are you trying to do play-by-play? Are you enjoying, like, is that the avenue that you're going for?
I don't know if it's the avenue. I just tried it. I tried it for FIBA 3x3 and I had so much fun. I was so nervous. I'd never done it before, but I like how with the 3x3, it's more entertainment, more laid back, not so like cookie cutter commentating. So I was really able to just have fun with it and be myself. And that's where I was like, this is fun. I'm
Yeah.
usually talking all the time and talking during basketball. So
That's the
now
job.
people are just forced to listen.
Yeah, for sure.
So
All right.
that was a blast.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so the 6th seed, Chicago Sky. Obviously, Candace Parker, she's been hurt for some of the year, but has still been very good. This is her, because she was drafted by the Sparks, and this is her first other team coming home to Chicago, right? Mm-hmm. So she's very good, but
Yep.
I gotta shout out specifically Kalia Copper, who we talked about before, Philadelphia zone, prep charter zone.
Nice.
She's dominant. Just like I want a team just like collecting all like the Philly. You can just tell a player from Philly. You can tell. I was like, if I didn't know them,
Yeah.
I would like. I hear a name or I like see the way they play. I'm like, that just like looks like a Philadelphia athlete to me, and you just like feel you. I'm always right. And then they have Courtney Vandersloot and Allie Quigley, who are married, which I love. I don't know if it's okay that I find it as charming as I do. But like anybody
You should.
on the same team in a relationship or on different teams in a relationship when they have to play each other, that is something I really like a lot. And that is such an element of this league that very few other leagues, obviously, at least openly have.
Yes, I know. It's so fun. I just think about it all the time. Like, can you imagine just going to work every day with your wife and then just being able to be like one of the all-time assist leader, and then she's a great shooter, and you just know that she's gonna get your assists up, and it's like you're on your way home like, yeah, I almost had 10 assists, but you missed that shot. Like,
missed that
that's
one.
their marriage, and I just
noticed
want to
that.
just be in it all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
I love them. I love the Chicago Sky. I love their coach and GM, James Wade. I was just talking about this on the pod for our Spinsters. Like, I'm really happy that Candace Parker is on this team, because the Chicago Sky team has really just been on the cusp of the playoffs, like every single time. We've all seen that Aces, De'Erica Hamby half court shot that sent the Chicago Sky home, a couple years ago, and they just haven't been able to get over the hump. And I think CP is going to be that player for them. At least I hope so. She has had some injuries, but they just need something, at least to get to the second round. They just keep getting bounced too early, and Candace is still upset probably about the Sparks and their playoff woes. So I'm sure she did not come to another team to repeat that. Kalia Copper has been kind of, I don't want to say surprising, but like a league favorite. Everyone loves her. I think I tweeted like, what's the next WNBA player should come on Spinsters? 4 people said Copper. They just want to know more about her. They love her play, her style of play, her hustle, how she kind of came out of nowhere. She was this role player, turned into a starter, and is now this like fundamental part of this team, especially on the defensive end. So it's been wonderful to just watch her trajectory over these past like 3 years. And then Courtney Vandersloot and Allie Quigley are going to do what they do best. Like, they're going to bring it. They've been here before. Like I said, they've won multiple championships on that Russian team, and they're winners. So they are going to try to find the pieces to put this Chicago team on their back.
Yeah, feels like time that they got over the hump. They were really good when Candace is healthy.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of if she stays healthy. Candace is also a great commentator. I think she's so much
So
better than
good.
anybody else on TNT. I want her to keep playing because she's good, but it's also like, man, you could be doing
You
this
got to
also.
set up whenever you want to stop.
Yeah, for sure. And then 5, we got Phoenix Mercury. Obviously, Diana Taurasi is Diana Taurasi. Just watching, she just has such an impressive presence. Just like watching her move around during the game or not during the game, you can just feel how intimidated everybody else is, which I really like.
Yeah.
And I also really like Sky Diggins, who just plays with a really like smooth like coolness to her, like just like moves really. I like athletes who glide, and I feel like there's a glide to her.
And it feels new. It feels like a renewed glide, I'll say. I think she made this Olympic team, which was a dream of hers, and she didn't get a lot of PT during the Olympics, but she really like has that now, that confidence, that gold medal, the extra swagger that comes with that. And she's playing like, you know, again, another Notre Dame player, and in those early seasons when she was with the Tulsa Shock, like she's playing like that Skylar Diggins. Now she added the Diggins Smith because she got married. But I think it's really cool to see this extra pep in her step that she's playing with. I think she's just happy. She's on a good team. She's playing with Diana Taurasi. She's playing with Brittany Griner, Kia Nurse, like all of these really, really great players. So I'm fully expecting her to continue this hot streak that she's on and the hot streak that the Mercury are on. And I hope it's the WNBA playoffs. You never know, but I hope they at least make it to the second round. They get past, they escape the first single elimination game, and they keep playing.
Who are you rooting for in the playoffs?
I'm rooting for the Aces.
Okay. They have not won a championship.
I'm just gonna
yet.
say it.
Okay.
They have not.
All right, we're getting there.
It's kind of fun. Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there.
So we got
save
the
that.
4 seed is Seattle, the Seattle Storm, defending champs. Brianna Stewart has missed the last couple games of the season. Unclear if she's going to be ready for the playoffs or not. Sue Bird, obviously, her resume is ridiculous. And she's just also incredibly charming. I love Jewel Lloyd. I love watching Jewel Lloyd play. And I also really like Jordan Canada. So talk about Jewel Lloyd and Jordan Canada.
Yes. Jewel Lloyd, man, the Golden Mamba. She just had a out of body experience the other night with 37 points, just exploded. I think she had like 20 in the first quarter, something crazy like that. She was just out of her mind, and she has that capability. Like anytime she wants to just go off, she can. And I think she has been the person that has benefited the most from being on this Storm team and being able to watch Sue and being able to kind of be mentored by her, somebody that has been in the league for so long and has stayed relevant and has been able to like put her under her wing. But, you know, she's also one of Kobe's prodigies, and you can see that in her game. She just takes over. So it must see TV to watch Jewel Lloyd. Jordan Canada from UCLA has been this steady backup point guard, not so much a scorer, but when she gets in, the offense is flowing. She's getting people involved. She's also a tenacious defender. She's all up in your grill. If she's going to bug the ball handler, which I think defense turns into offense. And I think she's able to be that engine for the Seattle Storm team. She did not play against the Sparks, and I haven't checked if there is an injury there. But that would be huge because I think, that Sparks game that we're referring, the Sparks blew them out. Yeah. And I think that they were also missing her.
The Storm just seem a little bit banged up, especially like they haven't. Alicia Clark was a huge part of the team last year. She's not there anymore without Brianna Stewart. But when they're at full strength, I think they're still capable of being the best team in the league by a pretty wide margin, but they're just not right now. And so it's tough to see them getting there.
I don't want anybody to be injured, but I'm happy that there's some different teams in the mix, because if the Storm were there again and if they were to win again, I'd be like, okay, this is getting kind of boring. But now there's more teams in there to mix it up.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to accuse you of liking when people get injured. We're not going to be doing that. But
just want to make sure. I want to put it out there.
Yeah, for sure. And then 3 seed is the Minnesota Lynx. You mentioned Nafisa Collier before. I really like watching. I always like the young players, like in NBA, WNBA. I really like anybody that's like scrappy and fighting there. I really like Crystal Dangerfield. She's out here just trying to survive. Is she the smallest player in the league, or one of?
She might be. Yeah. She might be.
And she's tiny. She was out here just like doing what she got to do to survive. I also really like Laisha Clarendon. There was a great ESPN article column by Katie Barnes on Laisha Clarendon that I really read all of it, and I would recommend searching for that if you haven't. But talk about those guys. It's been a combination of obviously Sylvia Fowles is like such a staple of like center play, but they really can, especially, I mean, they're a deep team for just contributions everywhere. Yes.
Dangerfield, coming off of the Rookie of the Year for her, just a solid guard, like really, really solid. I think that's what I think of when I think of the Lynx. You think of Cheryl Reeve, who is their coach and GM. Like she is going to put a solid squad on the floor at all times. And I think Dangerfield, being the smallest player in the league, but does not lack effort or heart, is the engine for that. And it's fun to watch her play, but it's also fun to watch her lead, because she really does a great job of making sure, like, okay, that was a bad shot. Let's regroup. Let's get these in order. Like really a floor general. That's what she does perfectly. Laisha Clarendon is also one of those stories where she gets waived and you're like, can you waive the vice president of the players union? Like, is that possible?
It seems like a
really racking
bad
my
business
head.
decision. All of a sudden the players union is like, and we're asking for this now because you just did that to me.
I know. I was like, I don't know if that's possible, but she was kind of floating there for a couple weeks, got this opportunity with the Lynx, and then they hit the game winner. And I like their first game with the Lynx. And I really, really enjoy watching them play and having this second chance a little bit, and realizing that your career could be over very quickly. And for her to have this so fast and to have this like renewed energy, it's only benefiting the Lynx. Like they saw someone who was like, how is Lay not picked up? We're going to scoop her up like for pennies and be able to use all of this on our team. So the Lynx are solid. I don't worry about them. They're going to have to go through some teams in the playoff, but I'm not worried about them breaking down, if that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Number 2, your Las Vegas Aces. They have 7 players averaging in double figures, which is wild.
Yes.
They're
I think first in history that's happened.
That's wild. I didn't know that. They're a team of like, there is character to this team. Liz Cambage is... Talk about what happened with Liz Cambage, and it was the Connecticut Sun head coach earlier in the season, right?
Oh, yeah. Wait, what happened?
Well, my recollection of it, he said something
yeah, go for it.
Like about how like she's like too big and just like basically indicative of, because she's what, 6'7". She's definitely big, and then she wasn't pumped about it. But she posted this, what I thought was a very funny, like, Instagram live, like, calling herself a big bitch and just, like, totally owning it and being like, and she's Australian, so she has this, like, cute little Australian accent. And just being like, then the Connecticut Sun coach is like a small little man, and she like acted like she didn't know his name. I was just very impressed by it all. It's the like, any of the drama in the W is just really endearing in a way that like, the NBA drama feels like, all right, just like get over yourselves in a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why. Maybe it's just the way they handle themselves, but I find it really delightful.
I mean, all WNBA drama, whether it's from the tweets throwing shade or from Liz Cambage literally throwing shade over her Instagram stories. You never know what you're going to get on those Instagram stories. Please subscribe. Yeah. But you just want to grab the popcorn. Like, you're like, this is entertainment. Like, I'm here for this.
Yeah. Asia Wilson,
it was wonderful.
Also very good. Yeah. She's maybe one of the best players in the league, and also really, really good as a commentator as well. Unfairly good at so many things. But I love Chelsea Gray. I love everything about Chelsea Gray. She's so physical. Perfect. I love a point guard that is just just like bodying you all the time. And I
Yeah.
think
Big
that
guard.
she's one of my
Yeah.
favorite players in the league for sure.
Oh, she's so good. You know, Chelsea Gray, I remember, I'm from NorCal, Northern California. So is she. I remember when she was in high school, being able to watch her play as I think I was in like middle school or elementary school, how she carried herself. She was always a pro. Like the game is so slow for her. And that's what I've always admired about her, especially as a point guard. She sees things 3 steps ahead, and she's not moving fast. She's not the quickest person.
She's really
but
not.
she's not. But she will dictate the whole like pace of the game, and then she'll shoot. She doesn't even have the prettiest shot, but it goes in. She'll pull up. She'll do a behind the back pass. Like, she is this complete all around player, all while going at her own pace and her own speed. And also a former Spark. But on this Aces team, to me, it's like, how can you lose when you have the MVP? You add Chelsea Gray, you have Liz Cambage, which you didn't have in the bubble last year.
Right.
And this team went to the finals without Liz and without this Chelsea Gray. So I don't see them losing, but then we get to the last team.
Well, Bill
That's number
Laimbeer is also the coach of the Aces and just a notorious guy in the sense that, do you like him as a coach? I don't. He seems to just really hate the idea of a 3-point shot in a way that feels so cartoonish for like the most 80s player of all time. Like, it's so exactly what you'd expect. That he's like, nobody's allowed to
so
take
on
threes.
brand.
Yeah. Is he a good coach though? Do you feel like?
I like how much the players like him. I think that's what I'm feeding off of. Like, I love how much him and Asia just like goof around. And also he's, a post player. So he's able to give tips to their inside players. They are one of the teams in the league that throws it into the post a lot. Like you said, he hates the 3-point shot, but it's kind of a dying art of the post player back to the basket. And I think he really brings that out of them. But sometimes I'm like, you're just so laid back. Like, are you coaching? I'm not even sure. Like, he's just so comfortable on the bench. It's hilarious. But the team seems to really love him. So that's why I love him.
All right, that's fair. And then the number one team who has won 75 straight games, basically, the Connecticut Sun. They are, I swear to God, before the season started, I texted my writing partner, who is also my low-key bookie, because we can't do regular sports bets here in California, which sucks. And I was like, Connecticut Sun, championship odds, Connecticut Sun, Jonquel Jones MVP odds, give them to me. And he's like, they're not up yet. And I didn't put those bets in. And I'm upset about it because Jonquel was not high up on the list of MVP odds. She would have been like in like 10 or 15 or something like that. So I would have gotten good money for it. And so I'm very upset because I love Jonquel Jones. I think she's awesome.
Oh my
she's
gosh.
such an exhilarating player to watch. She's very big and so skilled at everything. That just fills up the stat sheet entirely. And I also love Alyssa Thomas, who was out for the whole season until they all of a sudden Connecticut posts like a shadowy picture of Alyssa Thomas like through mist and shit. And it's like, holy crap, this team that's won like 12 or 16 straight games is now getting back another one of their like all-star caliber players in Alyssa Thomas, who had torn her Achilles, was out for the year. Like, came back so soon, which I'm a little bit worried about, honestly. But they're good. And I love Dwana Bonner. I mean, they're an excellent team, and they were missing some people in the bubble last year. That's why they didn't succeed as much. But this is a really good team, and they've proven it. And it's because they haven't won a championship in a really long time, or have they ever? Connecticut.
I don't think they ever have.
Yeah, and so it feels like
that's what I'm gonna go with.
Yeah, talk to me. Sing music to my ears about Jonquel Jones and Alyssa Thomas.
Two great players, great choices there. Jonquel Jones, the Bohemian Beast, as some call her, is KD. Like, if you love how KD plays basketball, that's Jonquel Jones. I think she's 6'7" maybe, and has a beautiful jumper. She has a turnaround fadeaway off 1 foot. She'll drive to the basket. She'll block your shot. She'll pass it to guards on the wing. She is this all-around super freak athlete, and it is like she just glides through the air. Like it doesn't even seem like she sweats either. Like she's like, this is easy. This is easy money. And also really interesting, like she left for a little bit this season to go back overseas and play the championship game with her team.
Wow.
And like missed a couple games. And that would be unheard of in the NBA if like LeBron, who's having an MVP caliber season, was like, hey, I'm going to dip out real quick. I'll be right back. BRB, like keep winning games.
Don't stop. Don't stop playing or anything. Just like don't wait for me. I'll come back. Don't like pause it through
don't wait up.
I'll catch up. I'll just ask you what happened when I get back for sure.
Which is just wild. But she came back, didn't miss a beat, still playing great. And she's my MVP because she has made this Connecticut Sun team better. And even that's saying a lot when they have DeWanna Bonner. And they also have Jasmine Thomas and Naisha Heidelman. I think it's Naisha. Now I'm going back on that. But Heidelman, they're engaged. So they're going to have the same like Courtney Vandersloot, Allie Quigley extra powers for them in the playoffs. And everyone should be aware of that because that's an extra talent that's have to be added to the scouting report.
I play 3-on-3 games with my family whenever they're in town, and it's me, my fiance, and my youngest nephew against my brother-in-law, my dad, who's 68 and still plays, and
I love that.
My older nephew, his older brother, and me and Alyssa, my fiance, do like we will sometimes like chirp at each other, being like, "That's supposed to be your spot, like that's your guard, like whatever." And to imagine doing that on a professional setting feels crazy. Like my nephews occasionally be like, "You and Alyssa were like kind of like being mean to each other just there." Like, no, it's fine. We're just like sorting it out. But to do it in like a professional league is just, it's really hard to imagine. And
for them too, like they play the same position.
Right.
So like Jasmine Thomas is the starter and then Heidelman comes and like subs her out. So I'm sure they're probably bickering at each other if like Heidelman has a better game, then Thomas loses minutes.
I'm coming for your spot. Like those are my minutes. I'm eating those minutes for sure. Well, this is very cool. Thank you so much for doing this. The real reason I had you on the podcast was to ask if you want to join my fiance's basketball league. She is looking for more teams, so we can do that offline.
Yes.
Because I was like, I'm interviewing Jordan Ligons, and she was, she played college ball, so she's like, get her in my league. Like, I have to do it. So that's what this is for.
Perfect.
Very excited about the WNBA playoffs. Very excited about your burgeoning play-by-play career.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This is so fun. And everyone watch the WNBA playoffs. They will not disappoint. I promise you.
Watch the NBA playoffs. Listen to Spinsters. Keep doing your thing.
Then I won't fuck with you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you don't fuck with me, then I won't fuck with you.
If you don't fuck with me,
Then I won't fuck with you.
but if you fuck with me,
I'm gonna fucking kill you!
That's a plan B.